The woman and the ghost husband. Long ago, in a peaceful village surrounded by lush green forests and rolling hills, a story was whispered from one generation to the next, a tale of love, mystery, and the thin line between the living and the spirit world. The village of Amakohia lay nestled between two mighty rivers. Mud houses with thatched roofs stood in rows, their walls painted in earthy tones that blended with the surrounding landscape. Children, barefooted and dressed in brightly patterned Ankara wrappers, ran along the dirt paths, their laughter echoing through the air. Women balanced clay pots on their heads, their backs straight and proud, as they made their way to the stream at the edge of the forest. The market square was alive with color and sound. Merchants called out to passers-by, displaying their wares, baskets of ripe yams, woven mats, and clay figurines. The air was thick with the aroma of roasted plantains and pepper soup. Men sat under the large Iroko tree, playing a game of Udo with small pebbles and chatting about the latest happenings. But beyond the joy and busyness of the village, there was a deep respect for the unseen world. Everyone knew the stories, the spirits that wandered the forests, the ancestors who watched over their descendants, and the rituals that must never be ignored. Chiamaka was the pride of Amakohia. Her beauty was unparalleled, her skin glowed like the morning sun, and her hair, always intricately braided, cascaded down her back. But it wasn't just her beauty that made her beloved, it was her kindness. She often helped elderly women fetch water from the stream and was the first to comfort a crying child. Despite her charm and the many suitors who came to her family's compound bearing gifts of kola nuts, palm wine, and cowries, Chiamaka remained unmarried. "The spirits will guide me to the right man," she often said, her voice filled with quiet determination. Her parents, though proud of her independence, worried. "A woman's destiny is to build her own home," her mother would say, weaving mats under the shade of the udala tree. But Chiamaka remained firm. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned shades of gold and crimson, a stranger arrived in the village. He was tall and handsome, dressed in a flowing white isi agu shirt and carrying a carved walking stick adorned with cowries. His voice was deep and melodic, and when he spoke, it was as if the world paused to listen. "I am Obina," he introduced himself to the village elders. He claimed to be from a distant village beyond the hills, seeking refuge as he traveled. From the moment Obina set eyes on Chiamaka, he was captivated. He courted her with songs under the moonlight, gifts of beautiful beads, and stories of distant lands. Chiamaka, despite her reservations, found herself drawn to him. Within weeks, they were married in a grand ceremony. Drums echoed through the night as villagers danced around a roaring fire, their shadows flickering against the walls of mud huts. Obina built a beautiful home at the edge of the forest for Chiamaka. It was unlike any other in the village, with carved wooden doors and intricate patterns painted on the walls. The couple seemed happy, but strange things began to happen. At night, Chiamaka noticed that Obina would leave their bed and disappear into the forest. When she asked, he would laugh and say, "I enjoy the cool night air." Villagers began whispering about the couple. Women returning from the stream claimed they saw Obina speaking to shadows. Hunters reported hearing his voice deep in the forest, even when he was supposed to be at home. Chiamaka dismissed these rumors until one night, she decided to follow him. Wrapping herself in a thick shawl, she crept behind him as he walked into the forest. Her heart pounded as she saw him stop at a clearing and begin speaking, his voice echoing in a language she didn't understand. Slowly, figures began to appear from the darkness, their forms pale and translucent. Chiamaka gasped, realizing they were spirits. The next morning, Chiamaka confronted Obina. At first, he denied everything, but when she threatened to leave, he confessed. "I am not of this world," he said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "I am a spirit, a wandering soul who found peace in your love. I never meant to deceive you." Chiamaka was torn. She loved him deeply, but how could she remain married to a man who wasn't truly alive? Seeking guidance, she went to the village priestess, Mama Nyoma, who lived in a sacred grove surrounded by ancient baobab trees. Mama Nyoma listened intently as Chiamaka poured out her heart. The priestess's face grew solemn. "The bond between the living and the dead is dangerous," she warned. "If you stay with him, you risk being pulled into his world. But if you leave, he may never find peace." The priestess handed Chiamaka a small, intricately carved calabash. "This will protect you, but you must make a choice. Stay and face the consequences or leave and break his heart." That night, Chiamaka returned home to find Obina waiting for her. His face was pale, and his eyes shimmered with sadness. "I know what the priestess told you," he said. "I will not force you to stay. But remember, our love is stronger than life or death." Tears streaming down her face, Chiamaka held the calabash tightly. She knew what she had to do. Whispering a prayer, she smashed the calabash on the ground. A burst of light filled the room, and Obina's form began to fade. "Thank you," he said softly. "You have set me free." The village mourned the loss of Obina, though few knew the true story. Chiamaka returned to her family's compound, her heart heavy but her spirit unbroken. She spent her days teaching children the ways of the ancestors, ensuring that the story of Obina would never be forgotten. Years later, as she sat by the stream, watching the sun dip below the horizon, she felt a gentle breeze and heard a familiar voice whisper, "I will always love you." And in that moment, Chiamaka smiled, knowing that some bonds could never be broken.